speed is my motto, nothing's ever holding back. Whatever it takes, we're racing, we're in the zone. Whatever it takes, we push hard, never alone. Whatever it takes, we're racing, we're in the zone. Whatever it takes, we push hard, never alone.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the Lone Road iRacing podcast. My name's Guy Robertson, and wherever you are in the world, whether you're listening on your commute, out for a walk, or sat in your sim rig, wondering if you should sign up for just one more race, thank you for joining me. Now, let me ask you a question. Have you ever had one of those weeks where iRacing simply couldn't put a foot wrong? Every qualifying lap seems to come together. The overtakes, they feel natural. You're reading every situation perfectly. Your safety rating is on the climb, your iRating also. You're finishing races with a huge smile on your face and thinking, I've finally cracked this. Then, a week later, it's almost as if somebody else has climbed into your rig. 3 races, 3 incidents, a couple of unavoidable contacts, a silly mistake of your own, the safety rating starts to disappear. The iRating graph begins pointing in the wrong direction. You open your profile after every race, hoping the damage isn't quite as bad as you feared. And somewhere in the back of your mind, a little voice starts asking, have I suddenly become a worse driver? I think every one of us has been there. Whether you're a rookie with an 800i rating or an experienced driver with 4,000, 5,000 or even higher. None of us are immune to the emotional swings that come with iRacing. The funny thing is, most podcasts will tell you how to brake later, how to find another 10th, how to improve your racecraft, and those things are all important. But today we're going to talk about something that sits above all of that, your mindset. Because in my opinion, your mental approach to iRacing has just as much influence as your long-term success as your driving technique. Today isn't about becoming faster, it's about staying motivated. It's about understanding why some weeks feel incredible, while other weeks leave you questioning everything, and most importantly, how to prepare yourself for both. Because here's the truth. The highs are coming, the lows are coming also. Neither one lasts forever. I'd like you to picture an old grandfather clock. Inside the clock is a heavy brass pendulum. It swings to the left, then back to the middle, then all the way to the right, back and forth again and again. It never stays in one place very long, and I honestly believe that's the perfect way to describe an iRacing career. One week the pendulum swings your way and everything clicks. The following week it swings back and nothing seems to go right. The mistake many of us make is believing that one side of the swing defines us, and it clearly doesn't. You're not as unbeatable as you feel during your best week, and you're certainly not as hopeless as you feel during your worst. So today, let's talk about the iRacing pendulum, how to enjoy the highs without getting carried away, and how to survive the lows without losing your confidence, and why understanding that swing might just be one of the most valuable skills any iRacer can learn. This is episode 47, and I'll see you in a minute. So let's start with something I think we all need reminding of. The pendulum swings for every single one of us. It doesn't matter whether you're sitting at 900 iRating or 9,000, whether you're a rookie or a pro license, whether you've been on iRacing for 3 months or 13 years. Nobody escapes it. Now, here's the interesting part. When we're having a good week, we really question it. If we've gained 150 iRating over the weekend, brilliant. If we've had 3 podiums, fantastic. If safety rating has gone from 2.8 to 3.6, happy days. We don't sit there thinking, I wonder if I'm actually this good. No, we kind of accept it, we enjoy it, and we celebrate it. But the moment the pendulum swings the other way, everything changes. One bad race becomes, what's wrong with me? 2 bad races, I've completely lost my pace. 3 bad races, maybe I reached my limit as a driver. Isn't it funny how quickly our brains starts to write different stories? The reality is often far less dramatic. Let's imagine 2 drivers. Driver A has an incredible week. 5 races, 3 podiums, 2 wins. He's gained 180 iRating. 0 major incidents. Now let's look at driver B. Driver B has had a nightmare. 3 avoidable first lap accidents, 1 self-spin, one race ruined by damage, and they've lost 220 iRating. Now here's the twist. What if I told you those 2 drivers were actually the same person, just 2 weeks apart? Because that's iRacing. It's not always a reflection of our ability. Sometimes it's the split you're placed in. Sometimes it's the circuit. Sometimes it can be the weather. Sometimes, guess what? We make mistakes. And sometimes other drivers do too. Sometimes it's simply one of those evenings where nothing quite falls your way. That's something we need to make peace with. Because if we accept every week to be better than the last, we're setting ourselves up for disappointment. Progress doesn't happen in a straight line. It never has. The drivers who stay in this hobby for years understand something that newer drivers often haven't discovered yet. Good weeks come, and so do bad weeks. Neither one tells the whole story. Your current iRating isn't your identity. Your current safety rating isn't your identity either. They're simply today's numbers, nothing more, nothing less. The danger comes when we allow today's numbers to decide tomorrow's confidence. Because confidence isn't something your profile should give you. It's something you build through experience, preparation, and perspective. The pendulum will always swing. The only thing you get to control is how much you let it move you with it. Now, this part might sound a little strange because I'm about to suggest that having a really good week in iRacing can actually be dangerous. Not because winning is a bad thing, far from it. Winning is brilliant. It's why we all race. It's why we spend hours practicing. It's why we watch replays and tweak setups and chase that extra tenth. Those moments should absolutely be celebrated. But success has a funny way of changing how we think. Think back to one of your best weeks on iRacing. Maybe you gained a couple of 100 iRating. Maybe you won a race you weren't expecting to win. Maybe you finally reached that license you've been chasing. How did you feel? Probably unstoppable. Your confidence was sky high. Every overtake seemed obvious. Every braking point felt natural. You weren't second guessing yourself. You simply drove. Confidence is a wonderful thing. In fact, I don't think there's anything more powerful in sim racing than confidence. Two drivers can have exactly the same equipment, exactly the same setup, exactly the same amount of talent, yet the confident driver nearly always looks smoother, more relaxed, more decisive. Confidence frees your mind. And here's where we need to be careful. Confidence can quickly become overconfidence. Without even realizing it, you start making little changes. You sign up for one more race because you're on a roll. Then another, you start taking overtakes that you probably wouldn't have attempted a week earlier. You begin expecting every qualifying session to put you near the front. You start believing this level of performance is now your new normal. And that's perfectly human. We've all done it. And I've definitely done it. You've probably done it too. There's another trap as well. Success raises expectations. Last week you were delighted with a sixth place finish. This week, sixth suddenly feels disappointing. Nothing has changed except the expectations you placed on yourself. And expectations can be incredibly heavy things to carry. One race doesn't go to plan, then another. The confidence that took weeks to build suddenly starts to wobble. Not because you've forgotten how to drive, but because you've started expecting perfection. Here's something I want you all to remember. Enjoy your good weeks and celebrate them. Take a screenshot of that new PB. Tell your mates, smile when you see that your iRating climbing, because you've earned it. But don't convince yourself that the pendulum has stopped swinging, because it hasn't. The difficult races are still coming. The unlucky races, they're coming too. The weeks where nothing seems to click, they're on their way. Not because you're about to become a worse driver, but because that's simply how iRacing works. The goal isn't to stay permanently at the top of the swing. That's impossible. The goal is to enjoy the view while you're there. Without getting that eventually, the pendulum will begin its journey back to the other way. And when it does, you'll be ready for it. So the pendulum has swung. Good week, it's gone. Now comes the part that every iRacer recognises. It usually starts with just one race. Maybe you get caught in somebody else's accident in turn one. Maybe someone rejoins the circuit without looking. Maybe you simply make a mistake. You shrug your shoulders. Never mind, these things happen. You enter another race. This one doesn't go much better. Your qualifying lap is compromised. You spend 20 minutes stuck behind someone you know you're quicker than. You force an overtake that wasn't really there. Bang, contact. Another disappointing finish. Now something changes. The results aren't the biggest problem anymore. Your mindset is. Without even realizing it, you start carrying the last race into the next one. Instead of arriving on the grid feeling excited, you arrive feeling frustrated. Instead of thinking, let's see what today brings, you're thinking, this better go this better go better. There you go. This better go better than the last one. You've already put pressure on yourself before the lights have even gone green. Then another little habit creeps in. You finish the race, and before you've even taken a breath, you're opening your profile and looking how much iRating did I lose, how much safety rating disappeared, and where am I now? Has my license dropped? We've all done it. I've done it more times than I'd like to admit. The problem is you're no longer racing because you're enjoying it. You're racing to repair the damage that's already been done, to get your numbers back and to undo yesterday. And that changes everything because fear is a terrible driving coach. When you're afraid of losing iRating, you brake earlier, you hesitate, you stop trusting your instincts, or you go completely the other way. You become impatient, aggressive, and you force overtakes. You fight battles that simply aren't worth fighting. It's almost as if your brain starts shouting, "Get these points back." And iRacing doesn't work like that. You can't demand good results. You have to earn them. One calm decision at a time, one clean corner at a time, and one sensible race at a time. Then there's another trap I think many of us fall into: revenge racing. Not against another driver, but against the game itself. I'm not finishing tonight until I get my iRating back. So you enter another race, and another, and another. Each one carrying a little more frustration than the last. You stop making decisions, you're reacting emotionally. And that's usually when the biggest mistakes occur. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do isn't clicking register. Sometimes it's closing iRacing for the evening. Go for a walk, make a cup of tea, watch a replay tomorrow instead of tonight. Because here's something I've learned over the years. Very few iRacers quit because of one bad race. Some quit because of one bad evening. Many quit quietly drift away after weeks of chasing numbers that have never seemed to come back. Not because they've lost the ability to race, but because they've lost the enjoyment of iRacing. And once the enjoyment disappears, everything else soon follows. That's why recognizing the downward spiral is so important. Not so you can avoid bad weeks, you can't, but so you can stop one bad race, becoming one bad week becoming one bad month, and one bad month convincing you that you no longer belong here, because you do. The pendulum has simply swung, and it always will. So we've talked about the highs, we've talked about the lows. Now comes the important question: how do we stop the pendulum controlling us? Because here's the truth: you can't stop it swinging, you can't control who gets collected at turn one, you can't control the weather, you can't control netcode events, you can't control which split you end up in, and you can't even control whether another driver is going to make a mistake. So let's stop trying. Instead, let's focus on the things we can control. Number one, think in months, not days. This is probably the biggest change you can make. After every race, we naturally ask ourselves, how did I do today? I'd like you to change that question. Instead, ask, am I a better driver than I was 3 months ago? Because today's result might tell you almost nothing. 3 months tells you everything. Maybe your iRating hasn't changed very much at all, but perhaps you're making fewer mistakes. Maybe you're surviving lap one more often. Perhaps your racecraft has improved. Maybe your consistency has taken a huge step forward, and that's real progress, even if the numbers haven't caught up yet. Number two, stop measuring yourself by one number. Your iRating is important, your safety rating is important, but neither tells the whole story. Did you keep calm under pressure today? Did you avoid an accident you would have driven into 6 months ago? Did you make sensible decision instead of a desperate one? Those victories don't appear on anybody's profile, but they're often the biggest victories of all. Number three, bank the result. Now, if you listen to the podcast for a while, you know I talk about this quite a lot because it's a philosophy that's changed the way I race. Not every race is there to be won. Sometimes 12th place is a brilliant result. Sometimes 8th after qualifying 15th is a fantastic drive. Sometimes finishing with 0 incident points after a chaotic race weekend is actually what your season needed. Don't judge every race by the finishing position. Judge it by whether you got the maximum from those circumstances. That's what banking the result really means. Number 4, know when to walk away. And this one can be difficult, especially when you're frustrated. You lose 80 iRating, then another 70. Your instinct says one more race. But ask yourself, am I racing because I'm excited or because I'm trying to undo what just happened? Those are two completely different reasons. If it's the second one, switch the PC off now. Go and do something else. iRacing will still be there tomorrow, and you'll probably drive much better with a clearer head. Number 5, celebrate the boring races. I know that sounds ridiculous. Nobody uploads a YouTube video of finishing 9th. Nobody tells their friends I had a completely uneventful race. But here's the funny thing. Those boring races, those clean races, those sensible ones, those are the foundations that long-term iRacers build their progression on. Championships aren't built on miracle overtakes, they're built on consistency, on discipline, on making good decisions over and over again. The races you barely remember today may be the races that make the biggest difference 6 months from now. And finally, remember why you started. I don't think any of us joined iRacing because we wanted a particular number next to our name. We joined it because we love motorsport and we love competition and we love learning. We love those moments when everything comes together. Don't let a number become more important than the reason you climbed into the virtual cockpit in the first place. Respect the pendulum, avoid the swing, learn from both directions, and above all else, keep enjoying the journey, because that's the only part that really lasts. Before we move on to this week's Agony Uncle, I'd like to finish today's main topic with something a little different. I'd like to speak to two groups of people because as you're listening to this episode, your pendulum is probably sitting in one of two places. Maybe it's to the right at the top, or maybe it's right at the bottom. So let's start with those of you having a fantastic time on iRacing. Perhaps you've just reached a new personal best for your iRating. Maybe you've finally earned that A license. Maybe you've won your first race in months. Or maybe everything is simply just clicking. If that's you, firstly, major congratulations. Enjoy it, celebrate it, take the screenshots, share the moment with your friends. You've worked hard for it. You've earned every bit of that success. But I'd also encourage you to stay humble. Don't assume every week will feel like this. Don't suddenly start judging yourself against your best week. Enjoy the moment, then reset. Because consistency is built by turning up with the same attitude tomorrow as you did yesterday. Now, for those of you listening or going through one of those horrible weeks, this part is for you. Maybe you've lost iRating. Maybe you've been caught in incidents that weren't your fault. Maybe you've made mistakes that you can't stop replaying in your head. Maybe you've even wondered whether you've reached your limit as a driver. If that's where you are today, can I ask you to do one thing? Be kind to yourself. Seriously. We spend hours giving other drivers the benefit of doubt. Maybe they locked a brake. Maybe they didn't see me. Maybe it was just a mistake. Yet when it's our own mistake, we're all ruthless. We call ourselves useless. We question whether we've got any talent at all. We convince ourselves we're going backwards. But you're probably not. You're just having a difficult spell. And difficult spells happen to every single one of us. Not just once, again and again and again. Here's something I genuinely believe. The driver you become after a bad month is often more valuable than the driver you become after a good month. Because bad months teach patience, they teach discipline, and they teach resilience, and they teach perspective. Good weeks, they build confidence. Bad weeks build character. And actually, you need both. And finally, whether your pendulum is right at the top or right at the bottom, remember this. You're not your current iRating. You are not your current safety rating. You're not your last bad race. You are not your last mistake. You're simply a driver on a journey, that's still being written. Some chapters are brilliant. Some chapters are difficult, but none of them tell the whole story. So next time you climb into your rig, leave yesterday exactly where it belongs, behind you. Start each race with a clean slate. Respect the pendulum, trust the process, and whatever happens, keep turning the wheel. Because somewhere down the road, the pendulum will definitely swing again. Welcome back to the iRacing Agony Uncle, the part of the show where your questions, problems and racing dilemmas land in my inbox. And together we'll try and make a little more sense of this crazy world we call a hobby, i.e. iRacing. This week's email couldn't fit today's episode any better. Hi Guy, firstly thank you for the podcast. It's become part of my Friday routine, and I've learned loads over the past year. Writing because I think I've fallen into a bad habit. I check my iRating after every single race. If it goes up, I'm in a brilliant mood for the rest of the evening. If it drops, I can't stop thinking about it. I often jump straight into another race just to try and win the points back, but most of the time I end up making things even worse. It's got to the point where my wife has started saying she can't tell whether I've had a good race night before I even say hello. I know it sounds silly because it's just a number on a screen, but I can't seem to stop letting it affect my mood. Have you ever felt like this? And if so, how did you get out of that cycle? Thanks, Mark. Hi Mark, firstly thank you for writing in, and secondly I don't think you've written anything that 1,000 of people listening haven't experienced themselves. In fact, I go one step further. I think most of us have probably been exactly where you are, and I certainly have. There was a time when the very first thing I do after a race was open my profile. Didn't matter whether I just had a fantastic battle or survived an absolute disaster. The only thing I wanted to know was what happened to my numbers. And before long, I realised something. Those numbers had quietly become responsible for my mood. If they went up, I felt successful. If they went down, I felt like I'd failed. The problem with that way of thinking is that you're handing control of your emotions over to something that naturally goes up and down. Imagine doing the same thing for the weather. Sunny today, fantastic mood. Rain tomorrow, terrible mood. It wouldn't make much sense, would it? Yet, that's exactly what many of us do with iRating. It's what eventually helped me. I stopped asking what happened to my iRating and started asking how well did I actually drive. Those are two very different questions, because there have been races where I've lost iRating but driven brilliantly, avoided trouble, made smart decisions, extracted everything from the race. Equally, I've gained iRating in races where I knew I'd made mistakes and simply benefited from other people having an even worse day. The number didn't always tell the real story. The replay did, my decisions did, and my mindset did. So here's a little challenge for you, Mark. For the next couple of weeks, don't let iRating be the first thing you look at. Instead, before you leave the cockpit, ask yourself 3 questions. Did I race fairly? Did I make good decisions? And did I get the best result that was realistically available to me today? If the answer is yes, that's a successful evening, whether your iRating agrees or not. And finally, I smiled when you mentioned your wife knowing how the evening had gone before you even said a word. And I suspect there are quite a few partners listening to this podcast thinking, yep, that sounds familiar. Try not to carry the race into the rest of your evening or your day. The race finishes when the checkered flag falls. Don't let it follow you into the kitchen or the living room or the rest of your weekend. Because iRacing should add enjoyment to your life, not take it away. Thanks so much for your email, Mark. I really hope next time the pendulum swings against you, you'll remember today's conversation and realise it's just another swing, not the end of your story. If you've got a question you'd like answering on a future episode of the iRacing Agony Uncle, you know what to do. Drop me an email and your question could be featured in future episodes of the Lone Road iRacing podcast. Okay, to close today's episode. Well, that's just about it for episode 47. I really hope today's conversation has done one thing. I hope it's reminded you that what you're feeling is absolutely normal. Whether you're riding the wave of a fantastic week or trying to pick yourself up after a difficult one, you're not alone. Every single iRacer, no matter how experienced they are, has stood exactly where you are. They've questioned themselves, they've celebrated incredible highs, they've endured frustrating lows. They've wondered if they're ever improving again. And they've wondered if they're actually going backwards. The difference isn't that the best drivers avoid these moments. The difference is they've learned not to let those moments define them. If there's one thing I'd love you all to take away from today's episode, it's this. Don't judge your racing career by one race. Don't judge it by one evening. Don't even judge it by a week. Judge it by the driver you're becoming over months and years, because that's where the real progress lives. The pendulum will always swing. Some weeks it'll swing in your favour, and enjoy those moments. Celebrate them. Be proud that what you have achieved. Other weeks it'll swing the other way, and accept it. Learn from it, then come back tomorrow. Not because you have something to prove, but because every lap, every mistake, and every lesson is adding another chapter to your story as a driver. And maybe that's the biggest lesson of all. The goal isn't to stop the pendulum. The goal is to stop fearing it, to understand the highs that will come and the lows that will come too. And neither one lasts forever. Before I go, I'd like to leave you with one final thought. The next time you finish a race, before you look at your iRating or safety rating, ask yourself one simple question. Did I become a better driver today? If the answer is yes, even by the most smallest amount, then that's a race worth banking. Thank you so much for spending part of your week with me again, whether you've been listening in the car, out on a walk, at work, or sat in your sim rig. I genuinely appreciate every single one of you who chose to make the Lone Road iRacing podcast part of your week. If you've enjoyed today's episode and know someone who's been having a tough run on iRacing recently, why not send it their way? It might just be the reminder they need that they're not the only one riding the pendulum. As always, if you've got a question for a future episode of the iRacing Agony Uncle, or you've got a topic you'd like me to cover, I genuinely love to hear from you. Until next week, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, respect the swing, trust the process, and above all else, bank the result. I'll see you in the next episode of the Lone Road iRacing podcast. Bye for now.
Whatever it takes, we're racing, we're in the zone. Whatever it takes, we push hard, never alone. I'm in the cockpit, the engines roar, hear me now. We're racing circles, got a hustle, made a vow. Chasing victory, it's all or nothing on the track. Sweet is my motto, nothing's ever holding back. Whatever it takes,